Hey students, got a little different vibe today. This is our last lesson on motivation and emotion. We're going to focus on emotion in this lesson. Motivation and emotion are tied together because emotion can become a motivator, that which drives us towards a goal. Emotion makes us do silly things, makes us do great things. If you're watching the Summer Olympics, for me, when I see people reach their goals, motivation, and I react with emotions, because when I see them crying and celebrating, it makes me want to cry too. They're just so great. I love the Olympics this year, and enough said about that. Now, being the age that you are, 14, 15, 16, however old you are, if you are in adolescence, which you should be, understanding emotions can be quite complex because we have a whole body system in reacting to events, reacting to stimuli. If you remember from sensation and perception, sensation is receiving that stimuli, and perception is what we make of it. And emotions is a part of that process. For psychologists, it's a little bit of a chicken versus the egg debate. What comes first? Does our body react to stressors, to events first, or does our brain react first to emotions? Where do emotions come from? That is what psychologists will argue about, or not necessarily argue about, but research about. And some of these theories are a bit outdated. See what you think as we go through them. Let's start with defining an emotion. An emotion is that which generally have both physiological and cognitive elements. That is a feeling that has physiological and cognitive elements and that influence behavior. So physiological is my body, and cognitive is my thinking, my perception, thinking, memory, perception, all based on things like schemas and prior experiences. So reacting to an event can have a lot to do with social, cultural norms and learning things through your family. So let's talk about these theories about emotion and the argument, what comes first, my body reaction or my brain reaction? Well, a historical emotional theory is James, and this is Lange theory. There's an E missing in this PowerPoint, but this argument says that first, emotional experience is reaction to a physical response to an external stimuli. That's a mouthful. Think of it like this. You see a scary bear on your hike. Fear-producing stimuli. You see that fear-producing stimuli, your body, the physiology reacts, the autonomic arousal, rapid heartbeat, your autonomic nervous system fires up to get you ready for fight or flight, and then your brain interprets the event to feel fear. Oh, I must feel fear. Example, I feel sad because I'm crying. Due to the fact that I'm crying, I interpret that to mean, oh, I must be sad. So simple. They get a little bit more complex. This was a starting point. The James in this is the William James of the Principles of Psychology, the first course in American psychology. So it's a primitive, early form of evaluating emotions. Where do they come from? Next is the Cannon-Bard theory, and we're going to do this, and this is the belief that physiological arousal and emotional experience are produced simultaneously at the same time. So you see the scary bear when you're out on your hike, your brain reacts, and then at the same time, your autonomic nervous system and your fear happen together. So there's no delineation between the two events. They happen at the same time. And another one that we have here is the Schachter-Singer Two-Factor Theory. There are two factors that come to feeling an emotion, according to Daniel Schachter and Singer. I don't remember, Walter Singer maybe. Emotions come from physical arousal and its cognitive interpretation or label. All right. So, walking through the woods, scary bear is growling at me. I feel the change in my physiology. My autonomic nervous system gets me ready for fight or flight. I label that. The bear could eat me, and I'm afraid of that because I don't want bears eating me, which leads me to conclude that I am full of fear. Two-factor is label, and then this is what I'm feeling. Now, does it matter how we're feeling emotions? Does physiology and cognitive capacity, does it matter when we're feeling emotions? Well, yes and no. It is important for us to recognize that it is a whole body process. Feeling fear is in my body, not just in my brain. I feel anger, white hot anger, all over my body. And that's the point for psychologists with feeling and emotion, that it is a comprehensive full body process. What we know about emotions really starts with our childhood. Now, you can take a look at these 6 different phases and probably are able to determine what emotions each one of these individuals is feeling. And that comes from our early instinctual inborn childhood development. When we see people who are smiling broadly, we interpret that as happiness, and we do it back to these people. And this is a process that we know based on experience. We build it with experience because I know how I feel when I'm smiling, and so I must be able to determine how you are feeling when I see you smiling. Then you see the guys with disgust. You just smell the smelly fart. You want to stay away from that guy. But we know what they're feeling because we've seen others and we've also experienced it for ourselves. That's part of that social cultural dynamic, as we named the emotions there. Now, knowing what we know about emotions and expression of emotions comes from a few different people. We start with Charles Darwin, and Darwin, who evaluated human behavior and saw that before words we communicated with facial expressions, and he determined that there were those 6 key emotional expressions that are universal throughout different cultures. And then this guy, Paul Ekman, who I believe is still living, he worked in Africa in the 1960s, and he went to study tribes who had never been exposed to Western cultures and found these universal expressions. 6 expressions are culturally universal. That is sad, fear, anger, disgust, contempt, happy, and surprise. Paul Ekman's theory is known as facial feedback theory. Also, there's another theory. This is not related to the cultural universals. Facial feedback is when I feel a smile on my face, I interpret that, I label that as I must be happy. So if you turn that frown upside down and walk around with a smile, it's kind of like a fake it till you make it kind of theory behind emotion, that if we smile, we are eventually going to feel better. We're going to feel as though we are happy because our smile is telling us that we're happy. Now, I'll give you great examples of this in class and also show you some videos from Paul Ekman. So stay tuned. We'll learn more about emotion in class. See you then, man.